Grassy Posse Packer Nation, welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you're not to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I am your host, Tom Grassi, and it's starting to feel like it's the end. I didn't do a video this entire week. I actually just went 5 days without doing one, which feels weird. Not really any games of importance this Sunday except the Pro Bowl. And so I'll say it again, no games of any importance. We only got really one game left in the NFL season this year. Makes me a little sad, just a tiny bit. But that being said, this episode, every year that I've done this podcast, I've talked about the Pro Bowl. And how, if you've been with me since the beginning, you know how I feel about the Pro Bowl. Basically, it's a complete waste of time. Now, today, I'm going to try to be a little bit more optimistic in that maybe something could change, maybe it could get a little bit better. And in addition, I also want to talk about the XFL just for a hot second. But let's go into the Pro Bowl. I broke out the Brett Favre Pro Bowl jersey the last year that Mr. Favre was in Green Bay, that he went to the Pro Bowl. And so let me give you a little bit of a history lesson that you never wanted for the Pro Bowl. So all the way back in 1939, everything's great in the world. You know, just World War II's going on. And from 1939 to 1942, there's the NFL All-Star Games, right? These teams come together and they play, and they're doing it for a little bit. And then World War II, they decide to put a travel ban on. People can't really go anywhere. And from 1943 to 1950, there is no Pro Bowl. 1950... it gets redeemed or gets brought back. It's 1951 and 1970, you have a Pro Bowl. And then in 1971, they switch to the AFC versus the NFC, and that goes until 2013. Now, younger fans will remember that from 2014 to 2016, we had like this fantasy football style picking of teams in which you had like Deion Sanders come in and he would pick a team and it would kind of be like a fantasy draft just to kind of mix things up. And then for the 2017 season, they've gone back to the AFC, NFC format. Now, I personally have had a problem with the Pro Bowl for years. The ratings have not always been so great. Actually, the number one rated Pro Bowl of all time drew in 13.4 million viewers, and that was in 2011. That was when they hit their peak, and it's been declining ever since. Now, that being said, the Pro Bowl usually has its ratings around where like the NFL All-Star Game is or like the NHL All-Star Game is. Like they have similar ratings. So from a comparison standpoint, there's really not much of a difference. But obviously from a quality standpoint, there's a huge difference between an MLB All-Star Game or the NHL and then of course the Pro Bowl. One of the big things being is that usually with NHL and MLB, they play it in the middle of their season. It usually has some stakes attached to it, while the Pro Bowl has always been, not always. From 2010 on, it's been before the Pro Bowl, usually the week before, except in 2011, they wound up switching it up a little bit, or 2001, I think they switched up a little bit. And then 1970 to 2009, it was the weekend after the Pro Bowl. And so the problem with the Pro Bowl for me, and I think a lot of other fans out there, is that it's basically a watered-down version of the NFL. It has basically no defense being featured in any way, shape, or form. People are putting up 50 points, 60 points, 40 points, and there's no real tackling, and I understand completely you want to avoid an injury, especially in a meaningless game. There's no stakes in any way, shape, or form. And so because of that, you get these like watered down rules, watered down tackling if there is any tackling. You're like not allowed to blindside anybody. You're not allowed to like rush a field goal or a punt or anything like that. It gets a little bit boring. And so that being said, there's been attempts to speed up the game. There's been attempts to make the game more relevant. Obviously, in the past 2 years, there's been these skill challenges, which, by the way, Devontae Adams killed it when he did it. Just saying. This year, he killed it. But, I mean, like, there's dodgeball, there's stuff like that. I just feel like the NFL is throwing a whole bunch of concepts at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I'm curious of what you think needs to happen to make the Pro Bowl more relevant. And maybe I'm in the minority here in that I just have no interest in it because it doesn't do anything for me. You're just, like I said, you're watching a product that is not reflective of a regular season game. And so that being said, what would you do to fix it? Well, in my opinion, I think the first thing you have to do is it has to have some stakes attached to it. It makes it more difficult because if you add that game, you can't make it in the halfway point of the year. I mean, the only opportunity you have is maybe doing it like right in between the playoffs. Like you have week 17, then you have a bye week, which would be the Pro Bowl, and then you would have the wild card. And so maybe that would make teams a little bit more interested in it. The Super Bowl teams haven't been picked yet, so obviously they could participate. And so that being said, that might help a little bit. I think. And also, you need to. What do you do with that though? Do you give them a home game if the team wins? Because obviously in the Super Bowl, that really doesn't matter. I'm really, really trying to find out like how you make this thing relevant, how you make it appealing. Like so, for example, right now the AFC and NFC are tied all time 22-22. But nobody cares. Like no one's going in. There's not like an extreme rivalry going on. No, they're really fighting for it. These guys are playing. They're going to be playing in Orlando. They get a nice vacation out of it. They get a nice bonus whether they win or they lose. And they're just not going to get injured. Like that's their main goal. And so that being said, when it comes to making changes, I feel like you got to put something at stake when it comes to maybe, and this is, hear me out here, maybe you allow like wild card teams to, like, even if you won the division, you don't necessarily get a home game. Like, in the wild card round, like if the AFC wins, the AFC, they all get home games, or the NFC, they all get home games. Like, I'm just spitballing here, but you got to do something, guys. Like, it's boring as hell. You're building up the draft to be like this big event. You're selling out stadiums for people to go to. You're moving around different cities. You're making it like an extravaganza. They're going to open the combine up to the fans. They're making that into something, but the Pro Bowl just seems like the lame duck. Like, I have never gotten excited for a Pro Bowl. When I'm playing Madden, I always simulate the Pro Bowl. So, that being said, I hope they're able to do something to fix it. The dodgeball doesn't do anything for me personally. Like, it's fun, and I understand that, but it really doesn't do anything for me, and I hope they fix it a little bit. Now, speaking of, tomorrow, or Sunday, instead of watching the Pro Bowl, I'll probably watch the Royal Rumble. That transition makes sense because the XFL, Vince McMahon, the owner and founder of WWE, has announced that the XFL will be returning in 2020. Now, if you were alive or able to watch the XFL in its one and only season, good God, what a train wreck that thing was. Not many of those people really had a career after the XFL. Like, after the first game, people had career-ending injuries. They were corny with their promos and their fireworks, lost a ton of money. ESPN did a really cool documentary on it that I would recommend. But now, I'm going to try to ignore the political side of this, and that there's a lot of things politically going on with the NFL, and that, of course, it's with the kneeling during the national anthem. You have players who are speaking out against Trump or speaking out when it comes to like politics. Tom Brady supported Trump, and so people are hating on him. And so Vince McMahon comes out the other day and basically says, we're going to have people that don't have criminal records. They don't have DUIs. There's no political standpoint. And I feel like he's targeting a very specific audience. He says he wants to make it for the fans. He says he wants to speed the game up, potentially eliminate halftime, get rid of all the unnecessary rules. And as a casual fan, you look at that and you're like, yeah, like those are some great things because it does get bogged down by rules. Like, how long are we waiting for challenges or the refs to make a decision or like halftime or commercial breaks or what have you? The game of football it's actually pretty darn slow in that like actual game time is very, very small, but the waiting period is very, very long. And so I hear that and I'm like, okay, but the way that Vince McMahon phrased it, and I know that it's coming out in 2020, is that it seems to be like I'm not a huge fan of his wording of saying like, our players are not going to be politically motivated, you can't get criminals or anything like that. I feel like it's targeting like a hyperly small market of like conservatives. And what I mean by conservatives is like the people who are outraged at the players who are kneeling during the anthem, that they're speaking up in politics. Like they don't want that in their game of football. Like they just want to watch simplistic football. And I understand the market for that, but I really don't see this being sustainable. I saw some stuff out saying like this was going to challenge the NFL. I really don't think so. You take a look at the draft, and like this is going to get like all the NFL leftovers, right? The people who weren't drafted, the people who weren't given a chance, or the people who like were cut by a team and really not picked up again. So it's really going to be those leftovers. You're not going to really have all-star players. And if you're a kid coming out of college, right, there's no way that you're picking the XFL over the NFL. There's just no way, because the NFL is paying these people hundreds of thousands of dollars. The XFL is not going to be able to compete in any way, shape, or form when it comes to salary. What are they going to be able to offer? Maybe $100,000 for like their top players. So I don't see that happening in any way, shape, or form. So that I just don't think it's going to be sustainable. I think they're going to have a difficult time getting a fan base, because I just think that it's not going to be big enough. I think they're going to have a tough time figuring out where to play, because that's super duper expensive. And so with all that in mind, the one thing that I would say is a positive with the XFL coming back, because there should be some competition with the NFL, is that if anything, maybe it'll change the way that they stream games. And what I mean by that is, you know, DirecTV has like their package. There's NFL Red Zone. There's the NFL Sunday Ticket, what I'm talking about. Like there should be a platform in which you could just stream any game you want. It's affordable. Make it like, you know, $10, $20 a month, something like that. And so you're not having to pay an enormous amount of money. But basically, it allows a Packers fan in New York to watch the Packers every single week. I don't have to worry about going online and trying to find a stream about it. So that would I see like the only good thing coming out of the XFL. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm very curious to see what you think about the XFL. Is it going to make any waves, or is it just going to fall flat on its face just like it did the first time? We will wait and see. That being said, I want to know what you think about it. And also, please, God, fix the Pro Bowl. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossi Comedy, or Tom Grossi Comedy on the Twitter and Instagram and all that great, wonderful stuff. Check out Packcast, P-A-C-K-A-S-T, which is this podcast. We do several episodes a week, obviously more during the regular season. And during the regular season, we interview fans from the opposing team who are going to be playing the Packers in the upcoming week. But you are on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and, of course, the YouTube. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy this week, and I don't know if you're going to watch the Pro Bowl, but if not, like, you know, enjoy drinking and stuff like that. But I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.